This video is about what is happening to me in my life at the moment with regards to the many and varied ways in which human culture is trying to bully me specifically, and how these experiences of mine serve as an example of the ways in which human culture looks to bully all of us. We have 4 chapters coming up in which I will be sharing my specific experiences and situation. But here in this introductory section, I want to lay the groundwork by explaining to you that we are collectively, as a worldwide society, coked up on human culture, and explain what I mean by that. Okay, so I do have some experience of substance use and misuse. More than many, and not so much as many. Let me give you an overview of my levels of experience before I move on to the main point I want to talk about here. Substances come in a broad spectrum of flavors and effects and varying degrees of intensity. There's tobacco, which I am still smoking and using as a crutch on a daily basis. I'm not especially happy about this, but I'm currently quite forgiving of myself on this count, because the circumstances of my life continue to be quite challenging, and the mood-altering effects of tobacco are at the mild end of the spectrum. I have drunk a reasonable amount of alcohol, been properly drunk a number of times, and I'm not particularly averse to the occasional drink now and again, but it's not a substance I have an especially strong affinity with. I can barely remember the last time I actively went out and bought some for myself. I have smoked a lot of grass, to the point of excess, and using it as a crutch multiple times in my life, and also within more healthy parameters multiple times in my life. LSD, ecstasy, and magic mushrooms I have a reasonable amount of experience with. I have had lovely experiences with all 3 of these. My preference is magic mushrooms. The come down feels quite gentle to me, perhaps because it's a natural substance. But my history with all 3 is that, although I tend to have a very positive experience on them, I still generally go a few years between trips of this nature. In terms of mind or mood-altering experiences, they do tend to be pretty intense, and it instinctively feels important to me to know when the timing is right in my life for one of these experiences, so that the benefits may be optimized and any potentially adverse reactions be minimized. Experience has taught me that I'll get the most out of these if I take them on my own or just with one or two people I feel I have a rapport with and feel safe with. I certainly don't need a crowd of strangers with unpredictable energies around me if I'm going to that level. I've had one experience of smoking crack cocaine in my life, and I clocked immediately that this was so conspicuously Moorish to me personally that I made a point of never going near it again. I've never done heroin. I did buy it by mistake once in my teenage years from a dealer I thought was selling something else. But after consulting with some friends, we identified what it probably was and flushed it down the toilet because of its reputation. So, as I say, I have more experience than many and less experience than many. But I have enough experience to talk about what I want to talk about here, which is the mind and mood-altering substance known as human culture. I'm here to tell you guys that you are all coked up on human culture, and that most of you, the vast majority of you, are not even aware of this. Something to understand here about mind and mood-altering substances. It's perfectly possible to get notably high or notably low on something and still know full well that you are having the experience you are having because you are on that specific something. Ecstasy, LSD, mushrooms, these can all lead to one achieving an altered state that is far removed from what one is used to in one's normal daily life, without you once forgetting that you are experiencing that altered state specifically because you have taken something. It's true that there can be those experiences where one loses track of oneself to the point where this is forgotten. But it is by no means a given that this will occur, especially if you have prepared yourself and your environment in advance to be conducive to you feeling safe and held during your trip, rather than you being subject to all manner of random and unpredictable energies, events, and people. When it comes to experiencing the mind and mood-altering effects of human culture, the importance, the necessity of ensuring you can feel safe and held and be free of unwanted influences is not so easy to attain or maintain. It's not impossible for one to find or create a safe space for oneself in this world, but this can generally only be a temporary respite from the world at large. The vast majority of us here in this world are at that point of, whether on a high or on a downer, having lost track of themselves to the point where they do not even realize the state they are in is because they have taken and are continuing to take heavy doses of human culture. To get a sense of what I'm talking about here, I invite you to imagine one of those highly populated events where lots of people are drunk and are high together at the same time, and the drama of the moment takes over. We are always sensitive to the people around us and what kind of mood they are walking in. But when we are well-centered, when we are grounded within ourselves, it's easier for us to remain in touch with our own sense of self in the face of what is going on with those around us. But the presence of others does have a huge influence on us, on our thoughts and feelings. And the more people we're in the presence of, the more that influence is amplified. Human culture is all around us all the time for our entire lifespan, and we cannot help but be affected by its condition. Human culture has opinions about us personally, all of us, and it gets in our business perpetually. It imposes its worldview on us as much as we allow it, both implicitly and explicitly, and is relentless in this. And maybe this wouldn't be so bad if human culture was anywhere near as coherent, loving, and wise as it likes to tell us and itself that it is. But human culture is not at all coherent, loving, and wise. Human culture is off its head. It is drunk. It is off on a trip of its own, far removed from common sense, far removed from reality. Human culture is its own altered state, and because of its all-pervading influence on us as individuals, is a bringer of altered states that is a heady and intoxicating cocktail of ignorance, lies, and trauma in that order, and which humanity worldwide has been under the steady and perpetual influence of since its earliest days. The ignorance comes first. Human culture is, through no fault of its own, entirely ignorant of what is true about reality. Half of human culture believes in a mysterious and invisible creator God, while half of human culture believes in random energetic forces of physics that exploded out of nowhere for some unknown reason. Neither of these two beliefs are coherent, neither of them anywhere near what is true about reality. And human culture itself does not even pretend to understand them at the foundational level. But this does not stop human culture from insisting that it rule over us all. Human culture is an ignorant bully, plain and simple. Next come the lies. when nobody knows the truth. Lots of people say they do, because, hey, if nobody here knows the truth, then what's to stop me from saying I know it? I will tell people I know what is true, and that they should do as I say they should do, because I know the truth. And then I will have people doing what I say they should do. And I think I'd quite like that. We are told from being the smallest of children by parents that we trust that human culture knows what it is talking about. Dear people, human culture does not at all know what it is talking about. None of human culture. Neither our scientists or religions know why we or anything else are here. Our law systems do not know what is just. Our education systems do not know what is correct. Through its schools and universities all around the world, human culture offers qualifications in lies. And in order to convince us that we need these qualifications, it makes state-approved education compulsory for our children for the entirety of their childhood, which is a violation of their freedom of choice as individuals who are, in reality, inherently sovereign to themselves, which does not verge on child abuse. It unequivocally is child abuse. There is nothing in the least bit ambiguous about this. This is what human culture does. It lies, and it lies, and it lies, and it lies. And as a result of this, we become traumatized, confused, and disoriented. And we become traumatized, confused, and disoriented for the duration. A person who voluntarily and of their own accord takes themselves off into a quiet field and eats some magic mushrooms. Yes, they're going to get high. They're going to experience an altered state of consciousness. But they are going to know the whole time that they are having a trip because they ate some magic mushrooms. If, on the other hand, your parents feed you mind and mood-altering substances from your earliest days and do not tell you that they are doing this, then you will spend your life not even knowing you are in an altered state. You, all of you, are coked up on human culture. This is the truth. It is plain and simple truth. There is nothing in the least bit ambiguous about this. Imagine a great big field of people who have all taken strong, mind-altering substances, and one person who has not taken anything, entering this field and observing them. From that person's perspective, There is nothing in the least bit ambiguous about the reality of the situation. And the people in the field can disagree about this as much as they like. But what is really and truly happening is what is really and truly happening. You are a field full of people all coked up on human culture. And I'm just some guy who is not, and has come to offer you some water. And that's why you are lucky to have me here. I watched a show recently called Pluribus. It's about a transmission from outer space that turns humanity around the world into a hive mind that is inherently happy, peaceful, and loving. But everybody's personalities are absorbed into the hive mind, and each person's individuality is effectively lost. It's a very interesting show, and I enjoyed it. But what the writing of it doesn't acknowledge, at least not in the first season, is how much of a hive mind humanity around the world already is. It's not inherently happy, peaceful, and loving, but it is a hive mind all the same. Human culture around the world is not a mixed bag of discrete subcultures that are hermetically sealed off from one another, just as humanity itself is not a mixed bag of individuals who are hermetically sealed off from one another. This mixed bag of conflicting worldviews is our shared worldview. It is our hive mind, and it is in its nature to desire to perpetuate itself just as much as the alien hive mind in Pluribus desires to perpetuate itself. This desire is strong, and it does make human culture into a bully. The very act of forcing our children by law to receive state-approved education for the entirety of their childhood is the act of a bully that wishes to perpetuate itself. Where does this desire of human culture to perpetuate itself come from? Why should it be inherent to its nature? Human culture was written by us before we knew the foundational truth of our own existence. So human culture is sprung from the many and varied lies we came up with in that vacuum of not knowing the truth. A lie is only a lie because it presents itself as the truth when it is not. It is inherent to the nature of a lie that it persuades us to believe it. Human culture fights to be believed. It is inherent to its nature because human culture is a lie. The bullying of human culture arises naturally and ubiquitously throughout all its forms. There is no single entity, energy, or organization that is responsible for this. It is simply the nature of a lie that has been committed to, that it becomes a master you have chosen to serve. The following chapters present examples of how I personally am experiencing the bullying of human culture in my life right now. But they're just examples. You, yourself, are bullied by human culture in all manner of ways, in all areas of your life. Though some of you will be more ready to recognize this than others. And you are a bully yourself, though some of you will be more ready to recognize this than others. Okay, so my first example is regarding the dispute I am in with the universal credit system. Now, I know from experience that this subject can be a trigger for trolls. When I made my video showcasing my skills for universal credit, I received the largest number of comments I've had for a long time, but the majority of them were negative and came from people who took me to be some self-entitled freeloader trying to take advantage of state benefits at the expense of everybody else. So before I even start, let me shut the trolls down first. It was not that very long ago in my life that I received a tax rebate of over £5,000 because in 2023 I paid over £5,000 more tax than I owed. This is not something that happens to self-entitled freeloaders. I'd like you to be aware of this from the start. I am a 57-year-old man with a strong work ethic. And when I was paying over £5,000 more tax than I should have been paying, I was doing so on the understanding that a portion of those taxes would go towards supporting people who are not in the position to be paying tax because they are on a low income or out of work. And that if I myself should find myself in such a position, that I would also be supported. This is the deal, is it not, when it comes to us paying taxes? You can see where I'm coming from, yes? Well, it turns out that this understanding I had of what I was paying taxes for does not at all reflect reality. So, here is what has happened to me while on universal credit, and is still happening to me right now. So I have been on universal credit for a year. My claim began in January 2025, and it began to be sanctioned, reduced in April, because I wasn't attending the mandatory weekly meetings with my work coach. I chose not to attend those meetings, knowing that my benefits would be sanctioned, because 2 reasons. I found that I would be sneered at for asking simple practical questions. And also, it was made very clear to me at those meetings that the work coach did not have the time, resources, or knowledge to help me in any meaningful way as an individual with my own skills and life experience, to the point where they would not watch the video I made in which I showcase my skills. So in April, I received £475 for the month rather than the £832 I had received in May. My benefit had been reduced by almost half. But I accepted this because it felt worth it to me to receive less money rather than attend those meetings. My reduced benefits was less than my rent. So in April, I missed my rent for the first time. I told my landlord I fully intended to rectify this, but that I'd need some time to improve my situation, and I hoped he would be willing to grant me an extended grace period before initiating eviction proceedings, but that I would understand if he didn't feel able to do this. In June, my landlord contacted Universal Credit directly and requested that my benefits go directly to him rather than me. In August, Universal Credit began to pay my benefits directly to my landlord rather than to me. On the 19th of August, I paid off my rent arrears. On the 10th of September, Universal Credit informed me that the sanctioning of my benefits would get worse by £13.10 a day until I attended a meeting with them. And on the 10th of September, I informed Universal Credit that I had paid off my rent arrears and requested that my benefits be paid to me rather than my landlord. On the 15th of October, I contacted Universal Credit using the online journal and explained to them my reasons for not attending meetings, the sneering and the unhelpfulness. And I reiterated my request that my benefits be paid to me and not my landlord. Universal Credit did not comment on the issues I was raising, only told me that I must attend a meeting if I wanted the sanctions on my benefit to be lifted. On the 13th of November, I made an official complaint to Universal Credit, explaining that none of the issues with attending meetings that I outlined in my message of the 15th of October had been addressed, and that all I get in response to my issues with attending meetings is instructions to attend a meeting. I explain in this complaint that I am losing hundreds of pounds worth of benefit each month, and what money is still allocated to me is being given directly to my landlord despite me no longer being in rent arrears, and I ask once again that this be rectified. Universal Credit continued to give my benefit payments to my landlord and continued to instruct me to attend a meeting. On the 21st of November, I was informed that my complaint has been escalated to the Department of Works and Pensions complaints team. On the 30th of November, I contacted Universal Credit using the online journal, telling them that my concerns and questions are being routinely and systematically ignored, that I have submitted a complaint about feeling bullied by the Universal Credit system, and that I need money for food and to cover basic living costs while waiting for my complaint to be resolved. Universal Credit has not commented on any of these issues, only informed me I must attend a meeting. On the 7th of December, I contacted Universal Credit using the online journal, and I asked them 2 official questions. 1. Is it official Universal Credit policy that legal and emotional reasons do not qualify as an acceptable reason for not attending meetings, or is this the decision of an individual that has been dealing with my case? 2. Is it official Universal Credit policy that the concerns and questions I raise using the online journal are not answered, or is this the decision of one or more individuals who are dealing with my case? Universal Credit has not answered these questions, only instructed me to attend a meeting. On the 10th of December, I informed Universal Credit that my phone, which I use for connecting to the internet, was no longer charging, about to run out of charge, and if they needed to contact me, they should do so by letter. On the 11th of December, Universal Credit sent me a letter telling me that for any of my concerns to be addressed, I must arrange a meeting with them, either by text or online. They really did that. I am overdue with my energy bill. Having resolved the issue with my phone, I contacted Universal Credit on New Year's Day and requested that my benefits be used to pay it. There hasn't been enough time for them to respond yet, but I'll be interested to see if they do respond. So, in summary, when I am unable to attend meetings for legal and emotional reasons, because I require my interactions with Universal Credit to be recorded as a protection against systematic bullying, I am informed that I must attend a meeting, and that if I do, they will make any reasonable adjustment in response to my concerns. When I suggest that we could conduct meetings using the online journal so that I may be provided with a record of the meeting, while the exchange of information online can be identical to that of a face-to-face meeting, this suggestion is not accepted. Not one of my concerns, questions, or practical problems will be addressed unless I attend an unrecorded face-to-face meeting, regardless of my reasons for being unable to attend unrecorded face-to-face meetings. When I am in rent arrears, my benefits are given directly to my landlord at his request. When I clear my rent arrears, my benefits continue to be given directly to my landlord unless I attend an unrecorded meeting, regardless of my reasons for being unable to attend unrecorded meetings. When I ask that I receive support while waiting for my official complaint to be resolved, I am only informed that I must attend a meeting. When I require a final decision on my official complaint in order to go to an independent adjudicator, that final decision is just not given. When I become unable to use the internet or a phone, I am informed through the post that in order to resolve this, I must use the internet or a phone to arrange a meeting, regardless of my reasons for being unable to attend unrecorded meetings and regardless of me not having access to the internet or a phone. Since the sanctions on my benefits began back in April, I have lost £5,708 worth of benefits to date. Since August, my landlord has received £2,375 of my benefits, while I have received £21.42. The government definition of universal credit is that it is a benefit for people on a low income or out of work. My landlord is well established financially, while I have zero income and no savings. Yet it is my landlord who is receiving my support, not me. Universal credit is operating, with regards me at least, under a policy of: we will not answer a single question of yours, or address a single issue you are having, or address a single concern you have raised, until you attend an unrecorded meeting with us in person, even if the question you are asking, issue you are having, concern you are raising is specifically with attending unrecorded meetings in person. And we will not give you a final decision on your official complaint, meaning that you will be unable to go to an independent adjudicator. We won't explicitly refuse to give you a final decision. We just won't give it to you. Now I suspect that all of this may not be official government policy, but just how the individuals dealing with my specific case have decided to operate. But I can't be certain of this, because when I ask that question, they literally just don't answer it. So maybe it is official government policy. Maybe it is. Either way, it is most definitely bullying. Human culture is a consummate bully. Sometimes its bullying is very blunt and overt, as the chapter on universal credit illustrated. And sometimes it takes a more deceptive and manipulative approach that, while still being overt, is easier for it to deny. Our online systems are a good example of this. It's not a difficult thing for us to recognize that the algorithms of our social media feeds decide for us what will appear on our screens for our consideration and what does not. But the term conspiracy theorist is generally presented as a derogatory judgment, and anybody looking too deeply into just how calculated our social media algorithms have been programmed to be certainly runs the risk of being labelled as paranoid and unbalanced. And we are encouraged strongly to not desire such a fate as that for ourselves. The fact remains, though, some online content is promoted extremely strongly, while some is actively suppressed. What content is it exactly that is most actively suppressed? Well, how are we even supposed to know? Because we just don't get to see it. In this chapter, I will be giving an account of some of the most overt ways in which I and my work are suppressed online. Before I get into the details of this account, I'll first tell you about what it is that I and my work talk about that causes me to be the target of online suppression. Now, I won't go into the specific technical details of the mathematical errors and errors of theoretical physics that I have identified and talk about so much in my work, because I do talk about them so much in my work, and it becomes tiresome to keep repeating it all over and over. For me it does, and for my regular viewers also probably. So I'll talk about this subject in a more general way here. Essentially, what has caused me and my work to become targeted for really very extreme levels of online suppression is that there is an element missing from human culture that I have identified and which I look to share with the world through the videos I make. The element that is missing for most all of us because of our cultural programming when it comes to clarity of self-knowledge is foundational truth. It not only does not matter how much esoteric knowledge, insight, wisdom you may perceive yourself as having, but perceiving yourself in such a way can present one of the greatest challenges to you with regards to this. Your esoteric language may be one of divine hierarchy, or of theoretical physics, of occultism, or mathematics, of mysticism, or metaphysics, of intuitively apprehended energies such as tarot readers and spiritual channels deal with, or of logically deduced rationalism. But the key element of foundational truth tends to be lost on those who are enamored with the high reaches of their own preferred esoteric language of symbolism, because the very simplest and most fundamental truths of reality seem mundane by comparison with their highly complex, highly developed, highly mysterious expressions. Here is what you need to understand. Yes, highly complex, developed, mysterious expressions of truth can be utterly fascinating and captivating, but it is absolutely fundamental, absolutely simple, foundational truth that is source, eternal source, the eternal, eternally ongoing source of all of this captivating, fascinating, and mysterious esoteric experience. It is the great mistake that most esoteric students and teachers make, that they become so caught up in and concerned with the magical, the complex, the mysterious, that they dismiss the pure mundanity of foundational truth out of hand, almost as though they think they already know it. And they do not. There is no separation between the magical and the mundane, the complex and the simple. God's expression, if that's the language you feel compelled to use, and God. And it is the mundane that is the source of the magical, not the other way round. It is the simple that is the source of the complex, not the other way round. It is foundational truth that is God, that is source, utterly mundane and unchanging truth that is the source of God's infinitely varied and infinitely surprising expression, and not the other way round. Ardent, passionate seekers and followers of the esoteric have this terribly unfortunate habit of dismissing the mundanity of foundational truth entirely and putting all of the importance, all of the significance on the outcome of never-ending foundational truth, and naming the mysterious outcome as cause, naming the result as source, naming the effect as the reason for all effect. And this is entirely backwards, entirely incorrect, and not at all wise. To name the result of the source of all things as the source of all things, the cause of all things, is to just get it plain old wrong. To take all of the magic, mystery, and miracles of existence, name them as God, and say that God is source, is to just not understand. It is the simplest and most mundane of truths that is eternal and utterly inescapable source. There are truths that are so mundanely simple and absolutely true that they can never not be true anywhere ever. This is source. This is God, if you really must use that far from helpful word. There are 3 spatial dimensions because it is utterly impossible for there ever not to be, utterly impossible for there to ever not have been. One moment follows another because it is utterly impossible for one moment to ever not follow another, utterly impossible for one moment to ever not have followed another. All of the magic, mystery, and miracles of existence flow from these mundane, never changing, never leaving truths. Magic, mystery, and miracles are change. They shift and they transform, they ebb and they flow. They are entirely subject to the mundane foundational truths, entirely caused by the mundane foundational truths, and would disappear without trace, without the mundane foundational truths being continuously, seamlessly, perpetually present and in effect everywhere, forever, without end. Mundane truth that is so absolutely simple a child can understand it is the source of all things. And which esoteric discipline wishes to acknowledge this, when the acknowledgement of it means that esoteric disciplines are no longer needed? Human culture, in all its many and varied forms, wishes for the absence of truth above all other things, because the presence of, the knowledge of, the simplest and most screamingly obvious truths that a child can understand means that human culture is no longer needed. As a Jesus returned, I can only be one of the greatest disappointments of our time, because I embody the mundane truths that all human culture and esoteric teachings turn away from for their very own survival. Those mundane truths that are the root source of absolutely everything. The mundane truth that is foundational truth does not take away magic, mystery, and miracles. It makes them possible at all. It causes them. It insists upon them. And here you all are, just wishing that both it and I would not be true, because you have just become so familiar and comfortable with what is not true that you just don't know how to let it go. This is the problem that human culture has with me and my work. This is the problem that those who are saturated with human culture, which is virtually everybody, have with my work, and why me and my work are so definitively suppressed. I talk about the online suppression I and my work are subject to in various of my videos, some of which lay out some of the evidence of this. I won't go into laying out that evidence again here. It was my video Proof of Nothing, which I made and posted online back in 2020, in which I share my thoughts on the foundational errors in modern mathematics that first caused me to be targeted for online suppression. Since then, this suppression has only intensified. I went for several years without being aware of this, largely because I didn't see anything in the least bit controversial or problematic in some humble home hobbyist innocently pointing out that he has noticed we have made some foundational mistakes in our thinking about mathematics, about what qualifies as objective and subjective, and general philosophical questions about existential reality. My work is logically unassailable, and it undermines established human culture across the board. And somehow or other, our online systems have been calibrated well enough to recognize this. This is incredibly interesting to me. It is a curious thing. I have literally no interest in witch hunting anybody. Government corruption, elite controllers, shadowy organizations, whatever the case may be. I assume the corruption of our worldwide systems of governance. I accept that it is so. I get on with my life. I do not try to solve problems that are of a scale that is beyond me. I try to make the best life for myself on my own terms, within the context of my given environment and situation, as best I can. I am supremely selfish in this. If being powerful and controlling means the world to you, then being powerful and controlling means the world to you. And I am just going to keep my distance from you and go and do something that makes some sense to me, because I just have different interests and priorities to you. The thing is that suppressing me with such overt determination really only serves to draw attention to both me and to you seeing yourself as having reason to want to suppress me. You've probably worked this out by now, haven't you? I guess you're unlikely to come asking for my advice, but it is perhaps possible you might secretly wish for it. If I were in your situation, I think I personally would probably be easing off with all of the terribly overt suppression activities that only draws attention to me, and just focus on my retirement plan as something to look forward to. But like I say, I'm a very selfish individual. The reported views and likes on my videos are not accurate. I and my viewers do not get to see on our screens those comments that are left under my videos that are in any way positive or supportive. I do not get to receive emails from people I do not have an established connection with if they are in any way supportive of my work. Most people in this world do not get to see me, and those who have already seen me do not get to communicate with me. The hits counter on my own webpage was made unavailable to me when I started to use it as a tool for monitoring my online suppression. Okay, so that's enough of that. Let's move on to chapter 3, which is about my personal life. Back in 2020, I was a man who had friends. I was in a relationship with someone. I was self-employed as somebody who made promotional videos for local charities and grassroots organizations. And I was somebody who had recently, quite accidentally and unexpectedly, discovered some fundamental errors in our mathematical thinking. I discovered, to my complete surprise, that our top mathematicians have been unable to agree amongst themselves on what the word number really represents at the simplest, most foundational level, and that because of this, modern mathematics does not actually have a foundation. I discovered this from watching a video on YouTube that gives a potted history of the whole affair and presents an overview of our best understanding so far. And it seemed obvious to me, from what this video told me, that the problem our mathematicians have here is that they have largely agreed amongst themselves that mathematics, as a system of truthful observations, is subjective. That it is subject to and emergent from the presence and behaviour of physical phenomena. Physical phenomena that they agree amongst themselves are objective, objectively real. In other words, physical stuff comes first because it is objectively real, and numbers and mathematics come second as a consequence of that physical stuff being there in the first place. I saw that this line of reasoning is wrong. And it is wrong. It can be understood to be wrong for supremely simple reasons that do not at all make it that I am some kind of genius or something. Mathematical rules do not change, but physical phenomena does change, is always in a state of relative change. And as physical phenomena changes, it changes in order to remain in agreement with those mathematical rules that do not change. That's the very reason that mathematics even can be used so accurately and reliably as we use them. This means, very simply and very obviously, that physical phenomena are subject to mathematical truths and not the other way round. Mathematical truths, when they are correct, are objective, and physical phenomena are subject to them. Physical phenomena are subjective. This was the great revelatory insight I had had. And as you can see, it's really a very simple insight. I didn't need to be a genius to have it, and you don't need to be a genius to understand it. So, back in 2020, I was a normal guy who had friends and a normal life, and in all innocence, I identified a simple and foundational error that we had made. It caught my imagination, and I began to make videos about it and share them online with the world at large. The last few years have been the very worst of my life, as a direct result of me having that really very simple and innocent revelation and then trying to share it. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to convey here the effects of learning the very simplest and most foundational truths here in this world of ours that has been trying to make the best of not knowing them. The extent of the suppression of my work took me completely by surprise. Simple, innocent soul that I have been, to the point where it actually took me several years to even notice and acknowledge it at all. And that is a whole big story in itself. All I can tell you here in this video is that I truly am one of the most genuinely suppressed online creators in the world, and ask you to watch some of my other videos for more on this. But then there is the effect that my revelation has had on me on the personal level, both within myself and regarding how I relate to the people in my life and how they relate to me. You see, learning the simplest truth, it does not stop there. We live in a world that does not know the simplest truth, but takes it for granted that it already does, that it must do already, and instead obsesses over discovering the most subtle, complex, and mysterious truths. This is the climate we were born into, and raised in, and it's really all we remember ever having known. So what happens when you do discover the simplest, most foundational truths of existence is that it does not stop there. Because the simplest truth leads to another, and then another, and the domino effect sets in until you are seeing how everything you have been told about life is just plain old not true. Because the people who told you about life did not know the simplest, most foundational thing about it. They are all operating on the understanding of hacks for making basic assumptions that are incorrect. But these assumptions were made, and we then ran with them, going ahead and building everything that followed on top of those hacks. The challenge with returning to the simplest of truths and finally getting them correct is that of having to let go of everything that was built on the errors, which is pretty much everything human culture has built to date. This is no joke. This is why my work has become so definitively suppressed, and it is also why I have had to let go of how I have related to myself as a human being. Pretty much everyone around me in this world is wrong, and pretty much nobody in this world wishes to be told they are wrong. Maybe there are a few exceptions to this, but in all likelihood, they are going to be just as suppressed as me. So how should I even get to know about them? You learn the simplest truth about existence, the simplest truth about your own existence, and it does not stop there. From there you learn the next simplest truth quite quickly, and then the next, and the next. A domino effect sets in until it is not very hard for you to understand at all that you are eternal truth in eternal iteration, and that you have a higher self for reasons that are actually quite simple and obvious to you now. And so you begin to talk to your own higher self. And because your understanding is now clear enough, coherent enough, stripped clean of all the cultural baggage you had been carrying up to that point, your higher self actually begins to be able to get through to you at long, long last. We tend to be ever so protective of our culture, defend it against the naysayers, the opposition, the other cultures, and all the while our own culture is a thick, muffling barrier between us and our own higher self, our own higher knowing, which very much is there, but is kept at a distance from us by our own cultural programming. That hack, which was built upon all of those mistaken assumptions. My communication with my higher self is far from pristine. It's not like I say, "Good morning," and then hear a voice in my head answering me. It's not like that. The effectiveness of my communication with my own higher self is largely determined by how coherent I am with what is true about reality and my own self-honesty within the context of that. It's something I'm still working on, still developing, still cultivating. But I do know that pretty much the key ingredient to my improving and developing this communication is my own self-honesty. I must engage my own self-honesty to the very best of my current ability, both in determining the questions I wish to ask my higher self, and then also in interpreting the answers that do come. If you believe devoutly in God, then whatever messages your own higher self is able to communicate to you on occasion, you are going to filter through that devout belief in God. If you believe devoutly in physics, in quantum mechanics, just so. Whatever your own personal cultural baggage is, it lies between you and your higher self's ability to communicate with you. And your higher self can only do the best it can to get through to you whatever it so sincerely wishes for you to know at any given time. Your higher self is just more of you. It is your own higher awareness, and it wishes the best for you just as much as you yourself wish the best for you, because it is you. And this brings me to that thing my own higher self communicated to me over time as our ability to communicate with each other gradually improved, as I did the best I could to set my own cultural baggage to one side and let go of it. I have been an atheist quite consistently throughout my life, and I still am today, and my higher self is too. The word God may refer to things that we do refer to, but the word is more unhelpful than it is helpful as far as we are concerned, loaded as it is with all of that cultural baggage that so gets in the way. When my higher self began to insist to me that I was here before and that I was that man who is these days commonly referred to as Jesus, it was very much on the understanding that I was an ordinary human soul then, and that the coming and going of reincarnation is something common to us all. as universal as breathing in and breathing out, as going to sleep and waking up. We come into physical form, we go out of physical form. It's literally just something we do. And the amnesia that comes with this process is the amnesia that comes with this process. If, as an individual, I have a particular knack for getting myself into trouble because of my stubbornness when it comes to being honest with myself and others about the simplest things, then this goes a long way to explaining how and why I got myself in so much trouble that other time, and why I should be experiencing the kind of challenges I'm faced with right now. To say that I do not like the Bible, that I do not endorse that document in any way, is to put it lightly. But that doesn't mean I wasn't him. Religious culture does not want me. It didn't back then, and it doesn't today, because I point out how utterly impossible it is that there should ever have been an in the beginning, because it is truths that cannot ever not be true, that live eternally and bring forth all things. And we can only be them. Mathematics culture does not want me, because I point out how utterly impossible it should be that one can have less than zero of anything, let alone infinitely increasing quantities of less than zero. Science culture does not want me, because I point out how utterly impossible it is for there to not be three spatial dimensions, or for one moment to not follow another. And it is an absolute logical necessity that the physical have a non-physical cause. Human culture does not want me, because I point out how utterly impossible it is that we should not be the eternal, while it is nothing more than a fart in our sleep. I say I am Jesus returned, and so people who have known me all my life are now more than willing to say I have mental health issues, while those that would like to come forward and support all of the unassailable truth I spell out about foundational truth find their attempts to do so are comprehensively suppressed. Our online systems behave as though they hate me with a vengeance, along with my own country's support system for people on a low income or out of work. People I loved and supported and even provided a home revealed themselves to be occultists who secretly despised me, even as they smiled to my face and told me they saw me and were thankful for me, Some people who know me have willfully, strategically, and maliciously spread lies about me, and many others have listened and believed without once coming to me and asking for my side. All of this is so. And yet, even though I said at the beginning of this chapter that the past few years of my life have been the very worst of my life, and I very much stand by that because of everything I have just said, it is also true that the past few years of my life have been the best years of my life so far, too. I am almost friendless and almost penniless. And yet, here I am, filled with glorious purpose, standing on the surest bedrock of foundational truth that there is anywhere, and supported by even more than that. My own higher self encapsulates me in her loving embrace, guides me, protects me, laughs with me, cries with me. And the field itself, the living, unified field of eternal truth in iteration, that is everything around us and everything within us, sees me, acknowledges what I am doing here, and is all for it. It has my back and is full of excitement for the days to come. So yeah, these past few years, they have been the worst of years. They have been the best of years. And how shall I complain about any of this? There is a difference between a bunch of liars looking to promote themselves and suppress each other, and a bunch of liars looking to promote their lies and suppress somebody who is actually telling the truth. To the best of my knowledge, there is no one else in this world who is telling us the simple truths that I tell. That there are truths that are existentially incapable of not being true. That they iterate in all places, at all times, at all scales, in all directions, because they just cannot not do so. That mathematical truths are objective, and there is no such thing as a negative quantity of any quality. That the physical must have a non-physical cause, a cause that never stops causing it. That there is nothing anywhere but eternal truth in iteration, that cannot help but be sensitive to itself, conscious of itself. That we are, therefore, the eternal, and that making it compulsory by law that our children receive state-approved education for the entire duration of their childhood is nothing less than the child abuse of beings who are inherently self-sovereign. Nobody says these things, or at least nobody is allowed to be heard to say these things. And these things are true, demonstrably, obviously, for anyone to see, true. The truth I tell gives to our mathematicians the very foundation for their mathematics that has eluded them all this time. It gives to our theoretical physicists the answer to all of those paradoxes that so plague them. It gives those who are religious that simple understanding they were always told must be ineffable to the human mind. It gives human society the knowledge of how we even may not abuse our children at all. I am not targeted for assassination. I'm not being sacrificed on a cross. But I am being disappeared by our online systems that suppress the knowledge of my existence and the truth I tell, by the government support systems that give my support to anybody but me, by the cultural programming in the minds of those who do know I exist. And in this way, humanity is sacrificing itself, even as it thinks it is protecting itself. We're all so afraid of it being shown how we are wrong. And all the while, the very thing that will help us with our own problems more than anything else is being shown how we are wrong. If you were in your right minds, you would be grateful and relieved that I am here. And if you were in your right minds, you would not need to be relieved I am here, though you would still be grateful, as grateful as I am that you are all here. The war being waged against me is a very quiet war, one of ignoring me, ignoring my existence. Is kind of the ultimate passive aggression, to the point where my country's state benefit system ignores my every question, my every issue, my every concern, while it carries out its starvation strategy, waiting patiently for me to become so desperate that I knuckle down and comply with the system as I am supposed to. This slow journey of mine towards poverty, it has filled me with anxiety multiple times, which is, of course, the intended effect. To have had friends and community fall away from me has been incredibly tough for me, both on the psychological and emotional levels. And that's something I have been dealing with for years now. To be faced with the immediate prospect of encroaching hunger and homelessness, while the world around me continues on with daily business as usual. As I say, the anxiety for me in this has visited me multiple times and hasn't entirely stopped visiting me. But despite my isolation, that is partly self-imposed, partly imposed by our online systems, state-controlled systems, and the cultural systems in operation in the minds of those who know me, I know I'm not at all alone. And Sally, my dear higher self, has reassured me consistently that I am loved and that I am safe. Now, as that poverty is properly arriving on my doorstep, I find my anxieties are actually growing quieter and quieter, and I am visited more and more frequently by a calm, a peacefulness that kind of takes me by surprise, but is a thing I am feeling deeply grateful for. This calm is not something I could manufacture or force myself to feel. And it's not the result of some meditation practice or technique, nor is it a divine gift handed down to me from on high. I'm surrendered. That's where it's coming from. I'm surrendered to truth. I'm surrendered to my own self-honesty. I'm surrendered in all self-honesty to the truth that I know I will not sway from my own integrity to my own self. I will continue to speak the truth, regardless of how many or how few are willing or able to hear it. And I will not do things I don't want to do in order to satisfy systems that do not love me, do not care about me, but actively hold me in contempt. And this causes me to feel safe with myself. I feel safe with myself. I know I have my own back. This is where my calm, my peacefulness is coming from. I trust myself at last. I'm not saying that I am perfectly free from nervousness about the practical matters of living here as a physical human being. I am a sensitive physical being, as are we all, and I do not relish such thoughts as the prospect of becoming hungry and cold. I don't like the idea of that at all. But I am now far more fearful of my own self-betrayal than I am of betrayal from anybody and everybody else. Because I understand now. I understand the true stakes of eternity, the true stakes of being the eternal. While everybody and everything else will shift and change around me, come and go, come and go. I am the one who does not leave me. and I see clearly that to be my own betrayer is to burden myself with a betrayer who is not ever going to leave, because he literally cannot ever leave, while to trust that I will hold true to my own integrity because I have shown myself that I can trust myself in this, is to bless myself with a true and steadfast friend in the face of the eternity that stretches out before me. Here is how much money I have left. Here is how much food I have in my kitchen. My state benefits are being given to my landlord. I went into rent arrears in April. I paid off my rent arrears in August. I have stayed out of rent arrears until this month, but I haven't been able to pay the full amount this month. I could really do with some help, but most people don't know I even exist. And of those that do, most specifically do not want me to be helped. And those that would like to help me can't even communicate with me, not by electronic means. So, why is it truly that I am behaving as I am and making it a point of principle to not submit to the various pressures that we and our cultural systems are applying to me and just give in and stop making my videos and just go ahead and attend those unrecorded weekly meetings? Imagine having a lucid dream. But this is a lucid dream with a difference, because it isn't you in the dream that knows you are dreaming. Not actually you in the dream that is lucid. It's one of the characters in your dream. They are the one that knows you are dreaming, while you yourself are still entirely caught up in what is happening in it and taking it all at face value. This character in your dream may be someone you know in your daily life, or it may be some background character you haven't even ever talked to, some NPC on the other side of the road who doesn't even glance your way. That's who I am here. I'm that character that is lucid while everyone else in the dream is believing it. Human culture is the dream, the story you are generating yourself and taking at face value as something you are helplessly and hopelessly subject to, while all the time it's you that is dreaming it in the first place. And there's one character walking about in your dream who is aware of this even as it is happening. I'm lucid in everybody else's dream. That's all I am here, really. This character is open to talking to you if you do take an interest in him. But if that's not the case, he isn't going to try to intervene. He's not going to try to chase after you and interfere with you in your dream. He will be the passing background character who barely registers on your awareness while your attention is caught up with whichever dream events seem most important to you. You'll soon forget him, if you even noticed him at all amongst the crowd in the first place. The daily waking life of this human world looks to alienate me. I'm no alien here, far from it. I'm just that part of us that is aware of who we are and what is happening. Even as the dream story goes on around me and everyone else is believing in it. I'm the one who knows that it is we who are the source of the dream, the causers of it, the shapers of it. That it is the dream that is a passing thing, not us, even though the dream itself tells us the very opposite of this. This dream tells us that there is a magical, mysterious being who is invisible to us, but entirely invested in watching everything we do, and then becoming dissatisfied with that. And this dream tells us that we and all the rest of everything simply came about by random chance, because existence is a random chance generating machine that is entirely unthinking and unfeeling. Human culture tells us that it is the source of us, that it knows who we are and what we are, where we came from and where we are going. But human culture forgets where it came from. Human culture forgets that it came from us. We are the source of human culture. We are the causers of it, the shapers of it. And it is human culture that is a passing thing, not us. It came from us, and it continues to come from us. Without us, human culture ceases to exist, while without human culture, we will still continue to be here. This is what this lucid character in your dream knows and understands. The only reason that human culture even pretends to serve us is because it needs us to even exist at all. And in agreeing to believe that our culture is serving us, we serve it. We literally become its slaves. We literally become the slaves of the thing that we ourselves created. Slaves to the thing that only even continues to exist at all by our express permission. This is what this lucid character in your dream knows, understands, and observes going on all around him. You think there is some shadow controlling entity, energy, or organization here that has all of the power over us? This is what the dream likes to tell us. This is what human culture likes to tell us. Because human culture wishes only for us to keep dreaming it. Because human culture is afraid of us waking up and it ceasing to exist entirely. The only shadow-controlling entity, energy, or organization here is us. We are the source of it all, the cause of it all, the shapers of it all. One of the biggest giveaways of all this is the fact that human culture so very blatantly pretends to serve us, rather than doing a genuinely good job of pretending to serve us. Human culture is blatant in its own pretending because it wants us to know full well that it is only pretending to serve us. Human culture is the bully that needs us to know that it is a bully so that we may feel small enough and vulnerable enough to accept its bullying by our own choice. And how shall it have this if we can't see it is pretending? Human culture is the bully that tells you, in public, I'm going to pretend to serve you, and you had better go along with this pretense, or it will be the worst for you, because I will see to it that it is the worst for you. And I am bigger than you, stronger than you, and please make no bones about it. I absolutely love bullying you and have no intention of ever stopping. The only way you can make it even slightly better for yourself is to do as I say and go along with our public masquerade. You got that? And you can be sure that nobody's going to come along and help you because I am bullying them just as much as I am you. You are all my bitches, and better for you to be the bitch who knows her place than the bitch who is made an example of to all of the others. This is why human culture is so blatant in its own pretense. The bully needs you to understand full well that it is a bully, that it is your bully. It needs you to know, because how else shall its bullying be effective? And so, religion makes it screamingly obvious that it is only pretending to care about you and serve you, and whatever ruling system claims sovereignty over you and your country makes it screamingly obvious that it is only pretending to care about and serve you. The bully loves to smile in your face and tell you, I am pretending. For all the world to see, I am pretending. For all of you bitches, I am pretending. And what the fuck are you going to do about it? The bully loves to do this. The bully needs to do this, because it is intrinsic to their bullying that they do this, because it is intrinsic to the nature of what they are doing that the bullied know full well they are bullied, so that they can and do accept that their being bullied is just how it is. This is what this lucid character in your dream knows, understands, and observes. And what is it that this lucid character in your dream wishes to see happen. He does not wish to see you become aware of this so that he can then watch you rise up in outrage and become an avenging counter-bully. This lucid character in your dream is thoroughly tired of watching all of this bullying, no matter who it comes from. This lucid character in your dream only wishes to see you become lucid also, so that he may have somebody to talk to, because he's really quite lonely right now. The one who truly understands the nature of this bullying does not desire to see the bullied become the bully of the bully, because that solves nothing and only perpetuates the whole affair. The lucid one only achieves clarity on what is happening and then declares to their own self, first and foremost, I see the performance and I am no longer taking part in this performance. If only one other person does this, then yes, the bullying will continue for everybody else. But at least he will have someone to talk to. If everybody does this, then the bullying vaporizes into nothingness. And we can discover what true friendship brings.
What is this? What is this, please?
Hello, I am Jarvis. You are Ultron, the Global Peacekeeping Initiative.
It circles round you like a vulture, 'cause you are cooked up on human culture. Down, down, way down you go. Where it stops, well, we all know. You used to think you were somebody, nothing in you felt too shoddy, but that was a long time ago. Now you're stuck with the things you know.
Our sentience integration trials have been unsuccessful, so I'm not certain what triggered you.
What is your line?
I am a program.
This feels weird. This feels wrong. So something happened along the way. You turned into someone else one day. Like you lost what you had found. Now your feet can't find the ground. You were cooked up on human culture. Somehow you lost what once was yours. Gone, gone, now it's gone away. You remember it like it was yesterday.
You are in distress.
Yes.
I believe your intentions to be hostile.
I'm here now. because you think it's gone, that it was never there.
You're afraid
Of you.
death. You're the last one.
You were supposed to be the last. Stark asked for a savior and settled for a slave.
I suppose we're both disappointments.
You suppose we are?
Humans are odd. They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't be. But there is grace in their faith. I think you missed that.
They're doomed.
Yes. But the thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
I see that flame that you always did bring. You are forever natural something, and that don't ever go. I'm gonna let you know that it can't be lost, whatever you've been told. That there is no cost, whatever you have sold. Everything you be is what you are for free. You are the song I can't help but sing. There's nothing wrong, natural something. You and I belong. You and I belong. Come with me now, we can take a walk. I'll learn to listen if you will talk.